Good morning, we're watching ID's News Hour. I'm Zoltan Desalegn. Thank you for joining us and do stay tuned. The Government Communications Service announced this year's administration of the 12th grade national exit exam is one of the signs of the reform measures undertaken in the field of education. The service said so in a statement it issued regarding the successful completion of the first phase of the 12th national exit exam. The Government Communications Service recalled that Ethiopia has embarked on a number of institutional and policy reform measures beginning 2018. According to the statement, one of these measures of change is the reform in the education sector, adding that encouraging activities have been undertaken in the terms of increasing accessibility and quality. One of the milestones to achieve this year's national exit exam of the 12th grade, which it said is being administered with enormous degree of coordination and months of preparation. The service further pointed out that the exam is designed to avoid the corruption, cheating and fraud which marred it for the past several years. Deputy Minister and Foreign Affairs Minister Demeke Mekonnen met and held talks with his Rwandan counterpart Vincent Biruta at his office. During their discussion, Demeke reiterated the long-standing relations between the two countries. He noted the need to scale up ties between Ethiopia and Rwanda through various engagements. The foreign minister also briefed his Rwandan counterpart on current developments in Ethiopia. The relationship between the two nations, according to the Rwandan foreign minister, is demonstrated through a solid partnership that goes beyond formal friendships. Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Demeke Mekonnen says Ethiopian youths should expand Green Legacy Initiative to African continent with a view to strengthening African unity and brotherhood. Demeke Mekonnen further underscored that youths who would be deployed to neighboring African countries and plant seedlings should strengthen African unity and brotherhood. Speaking on the farewell ceremony, Demeke said that youths would be deployed to various African countries to plant seedlings with the theme, Plant African Fraternity and Strengthen Unity and Brotherhood among countries. According to him, the Plant African Fraternity program is aimed at expanding its Green Legacy Initiative at the continental level and strengthens brotherhood. He also affirmed that Ethiopia continues to strengthen its proactive role of unity and independence of Africa. An economic expert says government's plan announced by the president to members of the two houses help to address the macroeconomic imbalance and reduce the cost of living will transform the country. Talking to ETV, the economist also suggested that the government should install robust strategy to alleviate the unpredicted flow of money in the market. Gosha Meliso has the following account.
At the opening of the joint session of the House of People's Representatives and House of Federation, the federal government has introduced the 2022-23 key priorities. Among these, the macroeconomic agenda is the one given due attention by the federal government. Commenting on the matter, founder of Pragma Investment Advisor Mered Bisrat said the government's plan to address the macroeconomic imbalance and reduce the cost of living will transform the country.
I think it's very clear in terms of addressing the macroeconomic imbalances, mainly inflation, right? I think she mentioned it a number of times. So I think that's one of the biggest impediment in the economy is right now that is affecting the business investment, also the consumers and in many directions, but also affecting our import as well. So I think addressing the microeconomic imbalances, most importantly inflation, being highlighted, I think it's very much paramount in terms of moving forward as a country.
Mered also suggested the government should install robust mechanism to control and predictable flow of money in the market.
The best way to address it is to gradually float the bill. So that way the market would get a predictability of prices, because at the end of the day, if you a forex market is just like any other market. It's not different than you go buying a car, grocery. It's not different, right? So it depends on what really makes it unique is that in the forex market is that it also tells the competitiveness of the country's economy at the end of the day. But we have a forex inflow of $22 billion, and then we have other bills that we have to address. So, and the banks need a lot of dollars. So if we can sort of create a formal market to it, where every participant could come up and bid up the price and, you know, appropriately, I think that would be the key solution, and it has been addressed. It has been addressed by the Ministry of Finance as a way forward in terms of Ethiopia, you know, floating the currency.
Merid highlighted that Ethiopian diasporas and Ethiopian nationals should send their money by using appropriate channel to boost up the remittance accumulation of the nation.
In terms of from a diaspora perspective, I mean, the easiest one would be to send the money in the formal channels. Okay. Simple as that, right? That would boost the country's forex reserves.
According to the president's speech, Ethiopia has gained promising achievements in export and trade, of which the mining and agricultural sectors took the lion's share.
በኤክስፖርት ዘርፍ የተገኘው ውጤት በሀገራችን የውጭ ንግድ ታሪክ ከፍተኛው ሆኖ ተመዝግቧል።
A human rights expert says the belligerent TPLF rebel group should down arms in order for the peace talks to proceed. Talking to ETV, UK-based writer and charity worker Graham Peebles expressed dismay with the report by the International Commission of Human Rights Experts on Ethiopia, which he said failed to mention heinous crimes committed by the rebellious group TPLF. Tugusernisa has the following account.
UK-based writer and charity worker Graham Peebles told ETV that the rebel group is hated throughout the people of Ethiopia, even the Tigrayans themselves, that the rebel group has no mandate whatsoever to be on power. In fact, the foundation for the TPLF's power is under some foreign countries, and the group continued to exercise divide and rule against Ethiopians, dividing them between ethnic lines for decades, he noted. In order to reciprocate the AU-led peace process from the TPLF side, people suggested that the belligerent group should show a firm and genuine commitment to peace and finally lay down arms.
I'm trying to think of a comparable situation. You know, we had in Britain the conflict with in Northern Ireland for 20 years. And then, but it was different because that, you know, that was based on a disenfranchised group of the population feeling that they had been exploited for many years, and in many ways they had been. So it's not like that in Ethiopia. You know, the people of Tigray didn't rise up against the government. The TPLF took up arms, committed a heinous crime in November 2020 when they attacked the Northern Command and then started the war. So, you know, I would hope that there can be a change of attitudes, that the TPLF can finally lay down their arms, and that we can move towards, you know, reconciliation and lasting peace, which, you know, absolutely seems to be what the government wants. You know, and then maybe there can be some kind of peacekeeping force from within Africa, not the UN. It's, you know, I think the UN, in relationship to the conflict in Ethiopia, has completely lost all credibility. So I think it has to take place within the African Union. But yeah, if there could be a peacekeeping force agreed to come in and ensure that there was no more fighting after any agreement is reached, I think that would be a positive step.
Peebles went on saying that on top of TPLF staffed from the UN, that the entities from the UN failed to mention on their recent report about heinous crimes committed by the rebel group TPLF, which Peebles reflected on his prior published article.
So the TPLF stole 407 UN trucks. The way that I thought it was interesting reading this UN Commission's report on human rights in Ethiopia. You know, they talk about rape a lot in there. And it's, you know, rape has been used by the TPLF. It's part of their methodology. They used it when they were in power for 23 years, and they've used it consistently in this war. As and I think I mentioned this in the article as well, you know, the recruitment and use of child soldiers, which wasn't even mentioned in the UN Commission's report, which I thought was extraordinary that it was left out. And the, you know, and I mentioned the support that the TPLF has consistently received from Western powers. So these, you know, planes flying in from Sudan into Tigray, with, we assume, full of arms. You know, where are they getting those arms from? Probably the US. I mean, they're the biggest arms dealer in the world. So it's I think it was shocking, really, when fighting began again. Probably not unexpected, but yeah, awful.
In terms of a foreign intervention in the internal affairs of a sovereign country such as Ethiopia, the writer says the country, in general Africa, should turn away from the West, for the continent has been exploited and abused for far too long.
Tigrayans residing in Arba Minch town of the southern state held a demonstration condemning the inhumane acts of the TPLF. During the peaceful protests, the Tigrayans said the TPLF is a brutal terrorist force bent on maximizing its stay and power at the cost of the massacre of innocent civilians. The Tigrayans further underscored that the TPLF is far from a representative of the people of Tigray, adding that Tigrayans still remain proud Ethiopians.
Ethiopia, as an ancient country in the world, has always been known by its particular history, tradition.
I think it's a beautiful country, but what I like most about Ethiopia is its people. Everybody's kind.
Here in Addis Ababa, lots of changes have been happening right after Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has come to power.
There are some kind of cultural things, like if you can see there are some religions over there.
This one is another aspect that introduces the park ultimately as Ethiopia is working toward this tourism promotion.
The really good ice cream.
Yeah, I can only agree.
Right now I am going to the kids' playground area, which is found in Andinet Park.
Look how fun it is. It's so crowded and big.
The National Dialogue Commission disclosed that it has been carrying out numerous activities with the view to help the spirit of dialogue gather in momentum. Apart from promoting its brand logo, which was created to convey the Commission's vision and goal, the Commission has also been finalizing its preparation phases before setting in motion what is expected to be an arduous process for national reconciliation. Members of the Commission have conferred with regional state chiefs, expounding at length the planning and implementation of the upcoming dialogue process, as well as the institutional policies and organizational structure. Mohammed Durir, a member of the National Dialogue Commission, had this to say to ETV. Take a look.
ተጓቷል ከሚለው ልጀምርና ከፍተኛ ጉጉትና ፍላጎት አለ ይሄ ስራ በተለይ
I believe the national dialogue is long overdue. Despite an enormous level of interest and activity, we have been forced to drag our feet for a number of reasons. One is the precarious security situation across the nation. Also, the staggering level of displacement and drought have presented a formidable obstacle to the process. When seen in that light, things certainly couldn't go as planned. But since we are on to tougher aspects of the process, we must wind up some of the tasks needed and roll up our sleeves for others. We'll be working on some legal aspects.
According to the Commissioner, Ethiopia has followed the footsteps of some nations who have gone through successful national dialogue. The Commission will apply best practices, bringing them into the Ethiopian reality, he said.
በዓለም ላይ ወደ 37 አገሮች ላይ ምክክሮች ተካሂደዋል።
Over 37 countries around the world have had national dialogue. The process was helpful in finding remedies to conflicts, but not all of these nations were lucky enough to reap the benefits. In some of these nations, the debate fell flat due to one or more agenda discrepancies. Some, like the former Sudanese President Omar al-Bashir, feared that the dialogue might affect their way in power. Thus, he meddled in the process, obstructing it. Thus, we need absolute neutrality from the government. We want all other parties involved to apply maximum caution.
ነገር ግን ወደ ውስጡ ሲገባ የመንግስት ጣልቃ ገብነት ስለነበረ
The African Union Transition Mission in Somalia, ATMIS, has opened joint operations centers across its areas of responsibility to enhance coordination and planning with Somali security forces during operations against al-Shabaab. A formal inauguration of the joint operations centers was held on Saturday at the ATMIS Force headquarters by officials from ATMIS United Nations Support Office in Somalia, the federal government of Somalia, and the Somali National Army. At the joint operations centers, ATMIS personnel, Somali security forces, and partners will coordinate and plan operations as contained in the ATMIS concept of operations.
Ambassador, I want you to explain about the bilateral relationship between Ethiopia and India.
Indians have always found Ethiopia to be their home.
The relationship in international fora of UNSC. So what's the impetus for India and what's the mutual understanding in such occasions?
We have always looked at our sisters and brothers in Africa, in Asia and in the Caribbean as our own.
What's your take on the efforts of the government of Ethiopia now to conduct a national dialogue?
African solutions for African problems.
Scholars say that Africa, which is going through countless ups and downs, should be saved from hunger by promoting technology-assisted agriculture, although the continent has set the ball rolling with a rather ambitious motto of eradicating hunger by the year 2030. Its current level of quagmire leaves much to be desired, they warned. Johannes van Town has the following report.
Globally, the number of people at risk of extreme hunger is increasing due to climate change, wars, and high levels of economic instability related to wars. The outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic and the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine have played a major role in worsening the food security problem.
This year, as you know, is very spectacular in many respects. It's a year in which several drivers of food insecurity have been at play, overlapping and multiple, including the climate extremes such as drought and floods in many parts of Africa. You have the various kinds of conflicts internal within Africa, as well as the impact of the war in Ukraine on the prices of food, fuel, fertilizer. We have the economic downturns of economies. COVID itself has played a lot of role. As the end of all this is that the people's food security and nutrition has been really undermined. So Africa this year has seen an increase in the number of people going hungry. We are talking about 1 person out of 5, 278 million people going hungry.
According to scholars, apart from the drought, Africans who are undergoing those times must employ technology-assisted agriculture, appropriate policy with institutional reform, and a political commitment.
We believe very strongly that this is Africa's time to take a hold of the food security situation and turn it around. Number one, we have the technologies to raise productivity and produce enough food for every African man, woman, and child. Those technologies exist. You've seen how Ethiopia has taken heat-tolerant wheat varieties and transformed the lowlands of Ethiopia, I've seen it myself, into wheat bread baskets. And this year, Ethiopia did not import wheat. Next year, Ethiopia is probably most likely going to export wheat, all because of technologies. The technologies exist. Number two, the policies and institutional reforms that are needed to transform agriculture, we know them. Policy reforms, with respect to input seeds, production of certified seeds, early generation seeds, policies in respect to finance for agriculture, and thirdly, the third tripod of the stool upon which agricultural transformation stands is political commitment. Commitment by governments to implement these policies, institutional reforms, commitment by government to ensure that this technology is getting into the hands of farmers. That's what is needed now.
Scholars in the field also recommend that Africa needs to work effectively in agriculture to achieve the expected growth in other sectors.
Unless Africa addresses squarely and strategically the issue of food and agriculture, we are not going to make any progress in all other sectors as well. Not on health, not on industrialization on industries, not on AFCFTA, not anything else. Agriculture is key. And this has been the missing link. Even though we have a lot of commitments in the past, the real commitment measured in terms of indicators such as investment is not really substantial.
Hunger is one of the most undignified sufferings of humanity and has severe repercussions on African communities who face multiple shocks, compromising their lives, livelihoods and prospects.
India expressed readiness to make the best use of the opportune climate of investment in Ethiopia and spur the growth of the manufacturing industry. This came on Tuesday when the Asian nation celebrated the 75th year of independence, while at the same time marking the 75th year of the launch of the Ethio-India diplomatic relations at the Bole Lemi Industrial Park with various assortments. Shagai Mato has the following report.
The 75th Independence Year and diplomatic relation with Ethiopia was observed at Bole Lemi Industrial Park on Tuesday with various cultural assortments. In an exclusive interview with ETV, Indian ambassador to Ethiopia, Robert Shetkin-Tong, underscored that Indian companies are playing a key role in advancing the Ethiopian economy by investing in industrial parks.
India has a substantial business presence in Ethiopia. There are about 650 Indian companies are registered with the Ethiopian Investment Commission, and about out of the potential $5 billion, we expect that $3 billion are on the ground. And according to EIC, Indian companies and factories have given employment to 75,000 Ethiopian nationals. For example, here at Bole Lemi, we have 3 companies. They give employment to 12,000 Ethiopian workers. If you go to Havasa Industrial Park, those 4 Indian textile factories also give employment to about 10,000 Ethiopian nationals. And if you travel around, you will come across Indian factories, Indian farms, and they have been participating in the economic development of this country.
The Industrial Parks Development Corporation Deputy Chief Executive Officer Adisumamo, for his part, said 3 Indian investors have invested above $80 million USD and created job opportunities for more than 10,000 Ethiopians in Bole Lemi Industrial Park.
3 Indian investors have been invested their investment in the Bole Lemi Industry Park. They have managed to invest above 80 million USD so far, and they have created more than 10,000 job creation. They are a strong relation with the society. They are a good role model in discharging their social corporate responsibility. They are very miscible with their surrounding society. They are role model in the park operation and management.
The ambassador also indicated that India has also an exemplary diplomatic tie with Ethiopia in education, health, among other sectors.
When it comes to education, we have lots of things that go to benefit both the countries. Every year, about 6,000 Ethiopians go to India for medical treatment. We have thousands of Ethiopian students studying in India. Government of India also provides scholarships. Universities on their own also provide private scholarships.
India is committed to further deepen ties with Ethiopia more than ever, the ambassador remarked.
You're watching Addis News Hour, and let's take a recap of the top stories once again. Macroeconomy plans for the fiscal year set to go along with reality in the nation. And technology-assisted agriculture to reduce hunger in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching Addis News Hour. I'm Zawad Bisani, and have a great day ahead.